going back to our conversation about the human mind and how our senses developed, we're really designed to perceive things that are outside of ourselves.
Yeah.
And most of our brain is actually responsible for taking in information that's coming from our environment,
Right.
and figuring out what we should do about it. Now, a little bit of a corollary to that is that because our forebrain, the things that make us distinctly human, are relatively new,
Right.
we don't have a whole lot of resources devoted to that. We do it pretty well, considering how new it is, developmentally speaking. But keeping track of all of these things that we're thinking is really difficult for our brain.
Yeah.
And there's actually, if you've ever had the thought of, man, I should really go to the gym. And, your rational mind knows that.
Yeah.
But your midbrain and your forebrain, the parts that are actually responsible for you doing things, that doesn't translate very well.
Especially if you're trying to do it at like 6 a.m.
Right, exactly. So there's actually a disconnect. Those signals don't get passed very well. And so this is actually a little bit of a hack you can use to send signals more efficiently to the parts of your brain where internally that communication may not happen, but there's a way to get around that.
Yeah.
And this is a concept called externalization. And the general idea is, because our brain is designed to take in all this information from the outside world anyway, if we're having trouble passing signals from one part of the brain to the other, why not take those signals and put them into the outside world that we can then perceive and then act on far more effectively? So this is why, if you keep a notebook or a journal or a diary, or you're having a problem and you're talking with a friend or a family member or a coworker and they don't even say anything, you just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, and you're like, I just fixed my problem, thanks.
And they're like, no problem.
I didn't do anything. That's the reason why it works. You're taking all of this stuff that's bouncing around up in your frontal lobe area that your brain really can't do anything with effectively. You're sending that into the external world, and then as you do that, you're re-inputting that thought or that signal back into the parts of your brain that may not have access to it, which is really kind of cool if you think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is actually, this is why writing down your goals is so important. This is why having somebody to talk to.
Absolutely.
And, one of the things that I do, in personal MBA coaching is I'm there to be a person for my clients to externalize to, sometimes in written form, sometimes on the phone, and it's really helpful because we can talk through some things and they can see what they're trying to do in a little bit of a different light or different perspective. There's actually a really kind of fun, this originated in programming. It's actually a technique called rubber ducking. And it's helpful, like if you're programming and you're having trouble trying to figure out what to do next, or you're stuck on an issue, you talk to something, like a little rubber duck or a stuffed animal, or something that you could talk to, and you explain your problem to the rubber duck, and the rubber duck obviously can't give you any feedback, but just the process of externalizing, talking to the rubber duck, you're re-inputting via all of your other senses, in the sense of talking, you're re-inputting audio, and it helps you think about it in a different way.
It's crazy, but it totally works.
Yeah. This is also the reason why, so many people say that I never really learn anything unless I teach it to somebody else.
Right.
Teaching is a form of externalization.
Or even I never learn anything unless I'm taking notes.
Right.
And
and some people, written form may be more effective, verbal form may be more effective. Personally for me, writing things down, once I write something down, it is locked in my memory, typically. I know for you, talking things through.
Yeah, he's very patient.
It's fine.
But you just work different ways.
Right. And so you have to experiment a little bit to figure out what works best for you. But the whole process of externalization, taking something that's in your brain, putting it into your environment, and then re-inputting it in via your senses is really, really powerful way to solve problems, to help you remember things, to help you learn things. I mean, it's out of all of the things, David Allen actually talks about this too, is just get it out of your head.
Yeah.
Write it down, get it into an external form. So if you don't have a notebook, if you don't have a journal, if you don't have a person to talk to, experiment with all of these things. And what you'll find is the more you externalize, the clearer things will become for you, and the faster you'll make progress on the things that are important. That's externalization.